Hey, what's up guys, Alex here. Thank you for checking this video and welcome to lesson number 16 of the series of tutorial on how to build a premium theme for WordPress. Welcome again. In this tutorial we're gonna take a look on how to clean up a little bit our theme, how to manage better the auto-generated header in our front end, and how to convert the CSS that we just coded and to switch everything into Sass, the original plan I had before starting to code this theme was to use Sass. That's why I created this folder Sass. Then I started doing some backend stuff and I used Bootstrap, but it was already a minified CSS version. So I had a bunch of source code that was already CSS and I put everything inside the CSS folder. Now I'm coding my own CSS inside the file sunset.css, but I don't want to do that because I'm going to create a lot of code, a lot of customization, and I want to use Sass because it's faster, it's more efficient, and there are a lot of ways that can help us to improve our daily workflow. Before doing that though, let's access the file header.php, and here of course something is missing. First of all, we're missing a really important meta tag from our header, and it's the title meta tag. That simply we can insert that right after the char set or before the link, whatever you want. I will put it just right after the opening of the head tag. So let's open the HTML tag title. Let's close it here. And here we can simply use WordPress function without any options and without writing anything else, called just WP underscore title. And let's just leave the attributes inside the brackets empty for now. This value is not going to return the title of our website or of our generic blog, but just the title of a single element of a single blog post or a category or an archive page or something like that. So in order to have a proper visualization of the website title, then a little bit of space and the actual title, whatever section that we're visiting, we have to print another information here, and to print the actual title of the website we have to use a function that we already used here, that is the blog info name. So we can copy that, we can print it here, and now we can save it. Let's go back in our front end, let's refresh and see in the bar here it's appearing the title. Then in my case, if you access the general settings, here is sunset theme inside the site title. Of course, I don't have any blog post, but if I navigate in whatever subsection of my title, I'm gonna see appearing like a double arrow and then the title of whatever section I'm in. So this is really helpful for SEO and proper navigation, proper indexation of our page. The other meta tag that is missing is the description. Also, this meta tag, pretty much if you use SEO plugin, is gonna be added automatically, but we want to put it as a default value because we want to sell this theme and we don't know if the final user is gonna actually use an SEO plugin. So let's put it anyway. Let's write meta space name equal description. Let's close the tag, space content, it's equal to, and also here we can use a tag WordPress function that we already used before, and it's the blog info description, and we don't need to do anything fancy here. Just save it. Let's go back in our front end, refresh, let's access the inspector to see what's going on in the header, and you will notice here now we have the meta content with the name of description that is don't worry just right, and it's exactly the same settings that I have here in my tagline. So everything works, everything's fine. Now if we scroll down, we remain in the inspector, we scroll down, we'll see that all these stuff have been created by WordPress thanks to the function, the WP head function that I'm calling here in the header. And it's okay, it's fine, it's calling all the source code, all the JavaScript, all this kind of stuff. But the problem is that it's calling also the meta content name generator. This is kind of okay to have it, but it's better not, because as I said in podcast of the Nerd Continuity, WordPress, every time they update, every time the developers of WordPress update the website, they release whatever bug fixing they did for that specific version. So leaving the version number here in the meta tag will expose you to whatever known security issue that specific version had or still has. So it's always better to remove it, and we don't have to remove it just from here, but as you notice here, also the version 4.4.1 gets added somewhere where we don't specify our own version. So it gets added to the CSS sometimes, and it's also, if we scroll down in the footer area where the scripts get included, you will notice also here gets included in the wp embed.min.js, that it's a default code of WordPress. So we have to strip this value from the JavaScript inclusion, the CSS inclusion, and the actual meta tag content. To do that, of course, we have to write a function in our functions file, and we can create a new file, because as you notice here in my functions, I'm just requiring templates, so I'm keeping everything separated. What I want to do, I want to create another file inside the ink folder to call it cleanup. So let's create a new file and let's call it cleanup.php. Let's go in the functions. Let's duplicate this part. And because this is a cleanup, something that I want to do it pretty much before the generation of the front end, before the enqueuing of my CSS and JavaScript, I want to call this file as a first thing in the functions list. So I'm going to call it as a first thing, like cleanup.php. I'm going to require the get template directory dot to connect the string, include my folder ink, and then cleanup.php to call the file. Now let's open the file. Let's open another function file here to check the header and copy the header, because I want to keep everything consistent. Always use the package reference here so everything's organized. And let's write a small comment to separate the section. So remove generator version number, and then here we can create a function. Let's call this function sunset underscore remove underscore wp underscore version underscore strings, in order to remove all the strings attached to CSS and JavaScript. And inside the brackets of this function, we have to pass a variable that is going to be passed automatically by the filter that we're going to use later to call this function. The filter is source. That is basically going to contain our source file, our CSS with JavaScript file that gets included, and we can check if this file has the version inside, and we can remove it from the printing. So let's open the curly brackets. Let's go inside this function, and let's call a global variable of WordPress that it's called WP version. So this global variable is gonna store the actual version of our WordPress. So calling global before a variable, we will be able to access whatever global variable WordPress defined before the generation of our front end. So now we have this variable that it's automatically grabbing the current version of our WordPress installation. Now we have to use a couple of PHP functions to access the string contained inside our source variable and remove the version. So let's use the parse underscore string str to parse the string, to check inside the string whatever thing we want to check. So what we want to check inside the string, we want to check the parse underscore URL, because this is a string. I know that this variable source is having a URL inside, and inside the parse URL we can define two variables. The first variable is the actual variable that we want to check. that is the variable is source because it's variable that we're passing. So we parse the URL of the source. And the second attribute that we want to specify is what we have to parse inside the URL. Inside this variable, I want to parse the PHP underscore URL underscore query. So these string of PHP, this specific attribute of PHP is gonna check for this part, the PHP version of this code. So this ampersand version equal 4.4.1, it's a PHP query var. So this string, this parse URL is gonna detect for this part. And the second parameter of the parse string, because in the parse string we are we are printing the entire URL. The second parameter of the parse string, we are putting the result inside a customized variable that we want. So in our case, we want to call this customized variable $query. So whatever result we had here, parsed here, is going to get stored inside this query. And now we can use this $query that it's getting whatever results from our parse URL to check if we have the version and to remove the version from the source file. So let's use a conditional if space exclamation mark empty. So if whatever I'm gonna write later is not empty, let's open the brackets. Inside, let's call the variable that we defined before. So $query, and the variable, it's actually an array of variables because this generates an array of whatever result we have here, all cut, all detached based on whatever parameter we specified here. So the query, to access the array, we have to use the square brackets. Query var, that is the actual code here, ampersand var. So we are checking for these array value here, ver, and if this is not empty, so the query var is not empty, double ampersand to say and the $query var, again ver, it's identical. If we put 3 equal signs after a check in an if, this means it's identical. So it has to be exactly the same. It's identical to the WP version. So if the var, the variable var that is passed inside our source file, it's identical to the current version of WordPress, I can remove it. So I can call the source, and the source variable is going to be equal to remove underscore query underscore argument, and we have to specify which query arguments we want to remove. In our case, is the query arguments that we want, that var, from whatever variable we are searching in, and in our case is source, and semicolon at the end. So you notice here that I'm using the variable source. I could use like new source, like a new variable I can name, but I don't need to do that because until this operation is complete, the variable source is not going to be overwritten by this variable. So I can maintain always source and check inside the source. I hope it's clear. If you have doubts, of course, leave a comment below, but this is kind of advanced PHP stuff, but hopefully was pretty clear. It's not too complicated, but could be if you're a beginner, but be sure it's gonna work. And at the end of this function, we have to return the new source variable because we removed finally if the current version of WordPress it's inside the version of whatever string we are checking, we can remove it because sometimes, of course, as I specified, we have other versions. So we have, for example, my custom CSS with version 1.0.0. So I don't want this script to remove all the versions. I want it to remove just the version corresponded to my current WordPress version. So now we can call the filters that we need to pass whatever value we want to check here. And the first filter we have to call is add underscore filter. And let's remove all this stuff. The first parameter is the filter that we want to call. So what kind of action we want to activate with this filter. The filter that we want to call is script underscore loader underscore source. So this filter is going to call all the scripts that we're including in the footer. The second parameter is, of course, as usual, the name of the function that we want to call passed as a string, and then semicolon. The other filter is basically identical, but because we want to check the styles inside the script, of course, we have to use style loader underscore source, and the function is exactly the same because we don't need to create two different functions for script and loader because the structure is always the same. We're always going to check for the var variable, the var string inside our URL. And that's it. Now, if we go in our front end and we reload it, you will notice that here the source file included by WordPress, they don't have anymore the version 4.4.1, but my version, the 1.0.0, is still there. And if we scroll down inside the footer, we will see that also this version here, 4.4, was present here, is not available anymore, but he maintained the version of my Bootstrap and jQuery installation because are different from the current version. Now we have to just remove the meta tag. As usual, let's go back in our cleanup, and here we can write another function called sunset underscore remove underscore meta remove underscore version. No parameters to pass in this variable. In this function, let's open the curly brackets. Let's go inside, and then here we can just return nothing, empty. Why is that? Because now we are going to add another filter to call a specific point, to call a specific generation of the WordPress installation that is called actually the underscore generator. So the generator has only the version of WordPress. And if with the add filter we call the generator and we say to the generator to call this function, WordPress will call this function and it will print whatever we write inside here. So because we are returning an empty string, WordPress will open the generator, update, use this function and return an empty string. So let's save it. Let's go back in our front end, refresh. And if we scroll down in the header area, we don't have anymore the generator. So our theme is more safe than it was before. To make things a little bit clear, let's create a small sub-comment section. So remove meta tag generator from header. And here we can call another small sub-comment to say remove version string from JS and CSS. So even if we have the title of the whatever section that we're doing here, we can use some small comment here to specify in detail what these functions are and how to separate the different functions and how to keep everything cleaner. So now what I want to do, I want to, as I said before, create the Sass source file, the Sass version of my CSS. If you don't know anything about Sass, be sure to check the video that it's appearing now in this pop-up in the top right, that it's a collection of super quick videos about Sass. It's called AliCAD Crash Course. It's a series about using Sass, and in just 7 videos, those videos are like 5-6 minutes long, you will learn everything that you need to know to start a project with Sass as a beginner. So it's gonna take you at most half an hour to check all the videos and you will be ready to go. So let's open our terminal and let's navigate to our local file, to our actual folder of WordPress. That in my case is cd sites /sunset /wp-content /themes /sunset theme. and hit enter. Now I'm in my sunset theme folder. So what I want to do, I want to use Sass to check whatever editing I do in the Sass folder and save whatever output in my CSS folder. So what I have to do, I have to call Sass -- watch, and I can check the Sass folder, column, and I want the output in my CSS folder, and hit enter. So now Sass is watching for whatever change I'm gonna do in this folder here. I didn't specify any type of encryption, any type of compression, because I'm still in development mode. Before releasing this website, we're gonna compress everything in minified everything. So now here I can create a new file called sunset.scss. Let's open this and let's copy paste whatever code we add in our sunset.css file. So let's save this, and if we access the terminal, we will see that the system detected changes in our SCSS file and generated the CSS and the CSS map file inside our CSS folder. So let's go check inside our CSS folder, and everything is properly generated. As you can see here, something was recoded and reorganized in a different way. So what we can do now, we can convert this file into a more optimized and manageable Sass version. So just to give you an example, if we open the generated sunset.css here, we scroll down, we see table and table cell that are in this way. So they're separated in a proper CSS way. But what I want to do actually here, I want to put the table cell to be dependent of the table. So I don't want this table cell to be used outside the table if it's not inside a table. So what I can do in the Sass file, I can change the structure a little bit. So table is display table with 100%, height 100%. I can indent inside the brackets and put the code dot table cell. Let's reuse this class. Let's open the brackets and let's copy paste these entire code that we can put inside here. Just cut, paste, remove some space, and remove this class that we don't need anymore. Let's save it and let's go take a look what happened inside our sunset.css file that it's been just refreshed. Here now we have the structure with the table and all our attributes, and now we have also the table cell inside the table, so be dependent from the table class, and we have this structure that has been auto-generated by Sass without us repeating this stuff. So if we can use the structure, and I'm gonna use Sass from now on. I'm gonna use some specific variable because I like the structure of, I like how Sass works and how it helped me to create a better code and be more organized. I'm not gonna change the code right now live recording this tutorial. I'm gonna do that behind the curtains, but you can download the newly generated and the more organized source code from the GitHub repo, and you can find the link of course in the description below. Of course, because with WordPress we are enqueuing the sunset.css file, we don't care about the Sass file, and if we access our frontend and we refresh, you will notice that everything remained the same, didn't change anything, and we are just including the proper CSS file without creating any issue. We are just using Sass to help us in the development process. So also for today's lesson is pretty much it. Thank you so much guys for checking this video again. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. And if you want, if you have a couple of minutes free, you can check the support me page where you can find all different ways to support me and help me to create better video and better content for you. So thank you again guys, and until next lesson, as usual, happy coding.